Hi everybody, this is Scott Dudley from SaaS Startup Stories, and today my special guest is Ken Burke. Ken is based in Petaluma, California, and he's the founder at EntrepreneurNow Network, which is the ultimate learning experience for entrepreneurs. He's also the author of a new book, Prosper, 5 Keys for Thriving in Business and in Life. And he's also the founder of Microcasting, which is an e-learning software platform. Ken, are you ready to rock and roll?
I am ready, Scott. Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. So yeah, apologies everybody for the croaky voice. Not too much I can do about that. Got a cold at the moment. But let's start off with your background and what initially got you interested in starting a SaaS company right back in the beginning.
Right, literally back in the beginning, because I actually started my company, my software company in 1995. And at the time, everything was perpetual license. If any of your listeners out there remember what that is, where you would actually sell software, you would charge for it once, and then you would charge a maintenance fee, and 20% would be reoccurring and not the whole thing. Well, I got funded by Sequoia Capital, and maybe your listeners know Sequoia Capital is the #1 VC firm in the world, according to them, tech VC firm in the world. They funded Google and Apple and every other company in the Silicon Valley. So when they helped me actually transition, it was in 2004, and they actually helped me transition over to a SaaS-based company when SaaS was really very, very, very new.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I did, because of course the valuations go up from there, even though it was in 2004. And then we grew the company from that point to very, very nice company where we exited in early 2016 for a very nice exit as well. So thank goodness we did it.
Well, I mean, it took Microsoft a while to get there, but they got there eventually.
They did. You know what? It took them a long time compared. Sometimes you want to kick some companies in the butt in terms of, it's like, God, you just don't get it. Reoccurring revenue is where it's at. I tell all my entrepreneurs, I coach a lot of entrepreneurs and such, and I say one of the key tenets to any business going forward is, even if it's not a subscription business, by definition, you have to craft it into a subscription business, or there has to be an element that is of reoccurring revenue, i.e. a SaaS business. You got to have some element of that. It's critically important to your overall success today.
Yeah, absolutely agree. All right. So did you borrow VC money to launch MarketLive, or did you bootstrap it instead? Tell us a bit about how you actually got it off the ground.
I bootstrapped it for 12 years, probably 12 years before I actually took my first round of money from Sequoia Capital. It was funny because I remember the time when they came to me, and I had finally decided that I wanted to raise money. It was, again, 13 years in the business. We had like 125 employees and about $13 or $14 million in revenue. So we were okay. And at the time, Sequoia was actually looking to invest in an e-commerce company. They had no e-commerce software company in their portfolio. And I was being courted by another VC that I really liked. And Sequoia Capital came along, and it took me about a month to realize, I'm like, I don't know if I want to take money from them. What I learned was, you don't say no to Sequoia Capital, because I was getting calls from random CEOs of companies in the Bay Area, which is where I'm located. Petaluma is in San Francisco Bay Area. And I'm like, why is the president of Macromedia calling me? Why is the president of Gap Direct, one of the biggest, e-commerce properties of the time, calling me and telling me I should go with Sequoia? I didn't even think I was like a big deal, right? It wasn't a big deal, but Sequoia does not lose. When they want you, they got you. And, it was a great move overall, because Sequoia opened a lot of doors for us. They really helped the business. They did, their share of damage as well, because they're, big and controlling to a large degree, and very tough. And I think they would be proud of that definition of being very tough. But they taught me a lot of things. And then from there, I will say, we went on and raised another several rounds, never, ever had to ask for money again. The entire length from that 2004 timeframe until we sold the company in 2016, I never actually had to ask anybody for money, because the doors were always open to me. And that was that's the value of Sequoia Capital. Is I remember we got, for the US folks, football by definition is American football.
Yeah.
We raised $7 million from the ex-49ers, the ex-San Francisco 49ers. They have a venture fund in the Silicon Valley. I never talked to them. It was a call from Sequoia, and they said, hey, you should invest in this company. Never talked to them. And they wrote a check for $7 million. I guess that's the power of Sequoia.
Okay, interesting. All right. Well, in hindsight, is there anything you'd change about your approach if you had to do it all over again?
Oh my God, yeah. Well, I don't. Does your listeners have time? Because that list is very long. I would do it differently today. I mean, I think back when I raised money, it was a completely different environment. And you don't even think about going 11 years in a tech business before you raise your first dime of venture capital. I mean, that's just not how it works today. You want to grow a lot faster and so on and so forth. Remember, it was early on. Valuations were very different. Even valuations 5 and 6 years ago were very different than they are today. But what I would suggest to entrepreneurs, which is what I'm doing in my new startup, so I practice what I preach, is stair step your investment and hold off as long as you possibly can until you're doing damage to your business. Hold off as long as you can before you raise your first round. So let me give you an example. Right now, I've started about a year and a half ago, we started an e-learning platform company. It's a new take on e-learning. It's going to kind of hopefully revolutionize it. It's for businesses and to use for sales and marketing purposes. That's the business concept. And instead of running out and just going and raising money right away, I am putting it off. I haven't raised any money for that company yet. I'm self-funding it, which I have the luxury of doing for a period of time, which is great. That's an unusual luxury I know that not all entrepreneurs have. And I am trying to push it to where I can get over the hurdles. Now, here's where the hurdles are. The hurdles are, you can raise money on a PowerPoint, but you're going to get the lowest valuation, you're unproven, and you're highest risk. You can raise money when you're building your product, or you can raise money right when you get your MVP done. That's also, that you can get your valuations are starting to go up from there, or you can raise money when you have customers and revenue. That's kind of the best time to raise it. So I'm trying to find that sweet spot where I have enough customers that I've proven myself, that I have my MVP. I have my MVP already. We're just going to market right now. I'm going to wait another 6 months, get 10 or 12 or 15 customers, get my reoccurring revenue up, SaaS business, reoccurring revenue, very important. Get my ARR to maybe 100 or 200,000 if I can. I'm going to work really hard, maybe 300,000, and then I'm going to go out for money. Now, I'm not saying that everybody has the luxury to do that, but I think that's the best strategy. Let me give you an alternative strategy, which is if you can't do that, stair step your investment. And what I mean by that is instead of taking all the money you need right up front, I do not recommend that. What I recommend is you take what you need based on your business plan for the next 18 months or for whatever that 18-month to 2-year period is. And then you go out and you raise your next round and your next round. Your valuation is going to be better. And I got to tell you, dilution. Pay attention to dilution. I was very dilution sensitive to both Sequoia Capital. I have another story around that. I may not share. I mean, I can share, but I don't want to distract. Be very dilution sensitive. Don't just give up 30, 40, 50% of your company, because you will need to continue to raise money throughout the life of your company, and you'll get diluted every time. So start small, and if you can, that's my recommendation, and just raise as much money as you need. I always say, raise, if you need $1 million, raise 1.2, 1.3, or 1.4 million. If you need 2 million, raise 2.5 million or even 3 million. You got to raise a little bit more than what your business plan calls for, but don't go out and raise $10 million when you right now you don't even know how you're going to spend it. Don't raise it, because you're just going to dilute yourself.
Yeah, it's just too much risk.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah. Okay, so how did you get your first 10 customers through the doors?
Well, in the early days, this was in the MarketLive days, because in the current business, I'm still working on those first 10 customers. We're just at the launch phase right now of our product. I have 3 beta customers. Actually, a 4th one is just signed on with us. So I have 4 beta customers right now. Yeah. And between now and the end of the year, I hope to get another 5 or 6 customers. How we got them is, I got to tell you, through relationships, through people I knew, through partners referring us deals. Because we weren't. Here's the deal. I'm a down and dirty entrepreneur. There ain't anything fancy about me. I don't care if I have $100 million in the bank or 2 cents in the bank. This is how you do it. You get down and dirty selling, which is you go out and you make sure you leverage the relationships that you have with the people that trust you already. Hopefully you have some of those out there. And you don't call in favors, because I didn't call in any favors. I went out and I started talking to other partners as well. Some I didn't know, some I was just introduced to, and they were more than happy to say, hey, I know where you're at in your company. I'll refer you a couple of people because I think they need your software. I got 2 customers that way. I've got another couple of customers through relationships, just relationships that I've already had. And we have a track on another 4 or 5 customers through those partners again, but I've held off. I'm actually much more patient than I was when I was younger, and stupider, I will say, as well, because I would usually do kind of a ready, fire, aim strategy, which is you get ready and then you fire, and then you get a bunch of customers. You go, holy crap, what do I do with all of them? And then you would aim and kind of figure out what you're doing, right? I'm kind of trying a different strategy. We'll see if it works. I'm a little older now. I'm doing the ready, aim, fire strategy, which is I want to make sure our software is bulletproof. I don't want to go out I want to go out with my MVP, but I want to make sure it works. I want to make sure I've got the right beta customers in place and I can give it enough time to mature. And then at the beginning of the year, after 3 or 4 months of these beta customers, then we're going to rock and roll at the beginning of the year. That's our plan as of right now. And hey, guys, that's what I would suggest your startup plan to be as well. It's a pretty good plan for a SaaS-based company, I think.
Yeah. So that ready, aim, fire strategy, I heard that first from Michael Masterson, or AKA Mark Ford. Yeah. Is that where you got it from?
No, well, I've been using that term for a long time in many different ways. And entrepreneurs, I think you've heard it, and I might have read, I don't know where I originally read it from, but it applies to a lot of both personal concepts in life and business concepts as well. Yeah. And it's just what entrepreneurs do. This is what our innate nature is to be aggressive, to compete, to be always forward thinking and promising sometimes a little bit more than we can deliver. There's a fine line between being visionary. And by the way, I learned this lesson at MarketLive. I would go out to my retail customers. We did $2 billion a year in online sales at MarketLive. That was my first SaaS company. We were cranking, rocking, and rolling. And all my customers used to tell me, we had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of major retailers. And they used to say, well, in the sales process, Ken said this. Well, Ken was being visionary. He wasn't selling you that in your product. So you really have to make a distinction between when you're being visionary and what products and features you're actually selling to the customer at the moment in time they're buying. And I got to tell you, I learned the lesson the hard way because my customers used to, in the early days, this goes back 15 years, they used to mix it up in their own mind. They would say, but Ken said something about this. Why isn't it in your product? They're like, well, that Ken was being visionary. Let me tell you. And I wasn't saying it was in my product. So I have learned in this new iteration, my new business, to be crystal clear about what I got and what's on the roadmap and what I don't got, and be proud with what you don't have. It's okay. They'll still buy. They'll most likely still buy.
Fair enough. Agree. All right. So it's probably a good time then to pivot to microcasting. Tell me a bit about the product and what sets it apart from the competition.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think, a lot of your listeners actually could use the product as well, although I'm not here to sell it by any stretch because we're not ready yet. They know that already, right? I mean, we're getting ready. But it's an e-learning platform. And what we tried to do is take a different twist on e-learning from a couple of perspectives. First of all, I spent 3 or 4 years, probably 4 years now, and I built a network called the EntrepreneurNow network. It's a great network. It's got a ton of content, a lot of e-learning. And I built it purely for one reason, to learn how to do e-learning the right way. So I built a company that inspired the software company, the second company called Microcasting. So EntrepreneurNow Network, which by the way is a great network, has a ton of great content, teach entrepreneurs everything. You can go to it, get a bunch of free content off of it. I don't care. I want you to. I don't care. It's free is fine. You don't have to buy a thing. And that taught me how to construct courses, how to distribute courses, how to get across. I have my courses, and I have about 20 other instructors who have courses through my network distributed all around the world. We have literally hundreds of thousands of minutes watched, if not millions of minutes watched each and every day. We're on LinkedIn Learning. We're on Go1. We're everywhere, right? All the major networks carry my courses but what I did is I was trying to figure out how this industry works. And then about 1.5 years ago, I said, okay, I think I have enough knowledge. I now know what I want to build. I know there's a need for it because I went out and did my research. And when I found the need was what made us special, unique, and different was e-learning was old and tired. Customer retention was really difficult, meaning people, and most of e-learning was employee-based. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want to use e-learning for sales and marketing and thought leadership and customer retention and partner management. So we built an entire engine for that, for using e-learning as an acquisition tool, as a lead nurturing tool, as a customer renewal tool for a SaaS business. Every SaaS business needs to make sure their customers continually stay educated, not just on their product, although they need to stay educated on their product, on everything associated with that product. So give you an example. I was in the e-learning space. I was a thought leader in the e-learning space. My company was thought leader in the e-learning space. I don't know, we did it 20 years ago and I didn't really think about it. It just is the way that we marketed. And I got to tell you, I got all my customers from speaking gigs, from being thought leaders, from putting out industry papers. We were ranked at Forrester and Gartner in the top 5 of e-commerce platforms in the world, both on the Magic Quadrant and the Wave every year consistently. But it was because, in part, our thought leadership. And I got to tell you, our customers bought us because we were leading the industry in the way that we thought. And they bought the solution, which was our software plus the thought leadership. And I got to tell you, that's why they wanted that strategy that we could guide them on how to make more money online with their e-commerce sites. Now, we did big sites. We did very big sites. Disney, Warner Brothers, Party City, these are big retailers in the Armani, all of Neutrogena, all of J&J, all of M&M Mars. I mean, we did massive sites. And so for major brands, but they still needed to learn. They still needed the thought leadership. So that, and I'm talking in part to your listeners about this because integrating thought leadership into your business in some way is critically important, even more so important now than before, especially in a SaaS-based company, because you got to keep those customers again year after year. See, MarketLive, going back to MarketLive, that my old company, we had really good software, but we stumbled. Sites went down in the early days. We didn't have all features that everybody else had, but what we did have was thought leadership and strategy, and our customers would stay with us 10, 12, 15 years, which is unheard of in the SaaS business, but they stayed with us because of the way we thought, and we kept up with our software.
So when you say thought leadership, is that sort of another way of describing content? Is it the same thing?
Yeah, the simple term for it, I'm glad you brought that up, is content marketing, right?
Yeah.
I think it's content marketing brought to a whole other level and bundled in the wrapper of e-learning, because e-learning is kind of now how people consume information. Reading a white paper is not really interesting, but watching a 15-minute video or a 10-minute video on that white paper is much more engaging for people. So content marketing is shifting into what we'll call quote unquote e-learning. But my definition of e-learning, we created something called a microcast because it's called microcasting, which is a 2, 3, or 4-minute course, right? And you create hundreds of them, literally, and our engine supports that. Then we have courses. All courses, by the way, I'm giving a piece of advice for anybody creating any courseware, any thought leadership, or using courses or any type of e-learning as an integral part of their business. Courses should be 25 to 40 minutes, period. You should not have a course over 40 minutes, and not have a set of videos or anything. People do not watch them. I mean, I've literally watched hundreds of thousands of people consuming our content. And if I put anything up that's over an hour, they don't watch it. It doesn't sell. It doesn't work. So it's got to be 25 to 40 minutes for a course. Now, if you want to put together a program, which is an assembly of courses or a learning path, those can be longer, and certification programs and things. Absolutely. But courses need to be 25 to 40 minutes. And then micro learning can anywhere between a minute and 7 or 8 minutes is microcasts, which I call microcasts because, well, that's our name for it because of the name of the company. But that's a micro learning element, and people eat those up like crazy. That's what you see, and we're starting to shift even into take into account Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. People are watching and learning in 30 to 60-second intervals on those platforms. And that's being actually translated into the e-learning space as well, which we're actually also pioneering within microcasting. So we're very excited about all of this, obviously, if I talk very rapidly.
Yeah, excellent. All right, so what are your thoughts on using email marketing to convert trials to customers and retain existing customers?
Well, I think that email is an important communication vehicle for sure. It really depends on the quality of your list. I've had in the Entrepreneur Now business, I've had good success and bad success with email. And it all boils down to how I acquired those email addresses and whether those customers really are buyers or what type of buyers are they? What do they really want? I'll give you an example. In the Entrepreneur Now list, I have a certain, and I learned this, I have a certain number of customers they're all, not all of them, but I have a certain part of my list that's real business opportunity oriented, get rich quick kind of people. They don't buy anything. They don't buy anything from me. I didn't mean to have them in my list. I accidentally acquired them through some affiliate things that I did. And I'm like, oh, these guys are horrible. But my really good list, the list that I segment, the list that I really use are the people that have been with me a long time, that I've continually delivered good quality content for free for. And then when I ask them to buy, they're much more likely to buy. So I would say, depending on your list and the quality of your list, and not even how old or new it is, because my lists are actually pretty new. It's really the source of where that customer came from and that profile customer that you really want to look at on the list side. I think email is as great a tool for communication, keeping your customers updated, engaging your customers as anything else. As a selling tool, I think it's less and less effective, and I think that you have to look elsewhere. As a nurturing tool, especially for B2B and B2C as well, I think it's a great nurturing tool. Lead nurturing and customer nurturing is where you're delivering leadership content, value-added content, whatever it might be, and you're bringing the customer along on their journey wherever they are with you. Email is a great tool for that. That's very valuable. Conversions is really dependent on your business, quite frankly. If you're a heavy B2C business, impulse buy, yeah, it can work great. If you're a much more, higher end business that's more methodical and requires a longer sales cycle, then nurturing is the way to go with email.
Yeah, I'd probably say most companies are doing it wrong too. That's the challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, batch and blast, and they're not targeting. And I mean, we could spend all our time on the fact. And yeah, there are a lot of great now funnels and targeting tools out that are getting better and better. But people still, at the end of the day, want to batch and blast because it's easier. If I send out 100,000 emails and I'm able to get some sales from it, it's fine. If I really hone that message into the target based on where I got the list, what the attributes of the list are, and I really analyze that, I can make a much more productive list. As everybody knows, but nobody does, or less do. And I think you're exactly right. Yeah. Email is being absolutely misused and wrongly used. That's why I say it's not an effect. I don't think it's that effective of a tool, quite frankly. I've not had great success with it. I've had some when I do it right. I've had some.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's a great communication tool, nurturing tool. But as a sales tool, I think it's less effective because it's used the wrong way.
Fair enough. All right. So what's the biggest challenge that you believe most entrepreneurs are experiencing right now with growing SaaS companies?
Focus, because it's the biggest challenge that entrepreneurs have in general, is that generally speaking, and SaaS companies or other companies, but we're talking SaaS companies here, is that you try to do too much. You try to focus on the mid-market, the upper mid-market, the high-end market, the low-end market. It's your nature is to not focus. And what ends up happening is you end up diluting your message, you dilute your product, because you try to build a product for too big of an audience because you want to capture as much as you can capture. Again, crawl, walk, run is a good strategy here. So when you're crawling, you're highly focused. You've got your beachhead, which is the tip of the spear, where you're selling to a smaller audience, a smaller group, but you're highly impactful to that group, right? So I'll give you an example. In the e-commerce world, we started off with apparel e-retailers, if you will. And back in the day, this goes back to 2000 and even before, and we were really good at fashion apparel. We had so many of the fashion apparel companies out there.
Yeah.
And we had special tools and techniques and strategies and technologies just for that marketplace. And we owned that marketplace. And then we expanded. So we landed and expanded. I'm sure you've heard this term before, land and expand. It's a good sales term. You want to land, the sales definition of it is you land into a customer and then you expand from there. You take one of their brands and then you get all of their brands. Or you take one piece of their business, you get more of their business. Same is true with your overall strategy. Land on a strategy that's really resonating, where you're highly focused. The more focused, the better. And then expand from there. Expand your business from there. But don't expand and then land, because when you try to talk to everybody, you talk to nobody. And I always say that. And that's the problem with most entrepreneurs. They try to talk to too many people. They build technologies that are maybe too, they could be general, but they need to market them specifically to a group. I think that's probably one of the challenges that I see. And then the second thing I would say is just their entrepreneurial mindset. I think, and I have courses on this. I have lectures on this. I have books on this. I think having the right, I think they need to work with what's between their ears. And optimizing their entrepreneurial brain and really understanding and knowing that, because I coach entrepreneurs and I watch them, I hear their process, and I'm like, when I'm coaching them, I'm like, oh my God, you didn't just say that. You're not doing that, are you? Because it's such an obvious thing to an entrepreneur that's been doing this. I've been doing this for 25 plus years. And hey, I don't have all the answers. I'm making mistakes every day, let me tell you. But I have to say that that their mindset is what gets in the way. Their ego, that ego is a huge thing. Their patience, they get so impatient. They start with one strategy and then they jump to another one. Anyway, I got a whole series on this, but I would just say, watch what's in between your head. Optimize and work on that entrepreneurial mindset of yours. And there are keys to optimizing that. Make sure you're in line with that, and then you can run a really good business.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. So did you want to tell us a little bit about your book? We're running out of time here, so I might have to
goodness,
get brief, but the new book, Prosper.
Yeah, just 2 seconds on Prosper. And Scott, I know I talk a lot, so I apologize to you and your audience, because I talk fast
Oh,
and
no,
I
it's
use a
all
lot of
good.
words. But yeah, the book Prosper came out earlier this year. It did hit #5 on the Amazon bestseller list. I was so excited. Of course, that only lasted for a day. So, you know, it was like, take a screenshot quick because this isn't going to last very long, right? But it did it. You know, it's a book on personal growth. It's a mixture of what I talked about just a moment ago. It's a mixture of personal development and business together, how you have to think. And at the cornerstone of everything, I'll just say, is growth. We're all about growth. We're all about learning, growing, and developing. And when you put everything in that perspective, everything that you're encountering, whatever failure you're having, which, by the way, my definition is you can't have a failure. And the ultimate goal of the book is to have you happier, more joyful, and more fulfilled with whatever you're doing. And I'll just leave you with this. I want to make sure that your audience, and hopefully this will resonate, is you have to have a really good definition of success. And I'll suggest to you that making money is not the best ultimate definition of success, because once you have money, you look at it and you're like, yeah, I know everybody wants money. I know, I get it. And only rich people say that, right? No, I'm not rich, but I can tell you that make sure you have a really healthy definition of success. And the definition of success is your definition, not somebody else's, not society's, not your mother's, not your father's, not your partner, not your children. It's your definition. And make sure you really have a good definition of that. And if they go to kenburke.com, there's a video on that as well. I'll just note that I've got 6 or 7 videos that talk about varying aspects of managing your ego, growth, definition of success, and some other really good things that feed your brain a little bit. And it's good stuff.
Fantastic. All right. So just to wrap up, where can people go to find out more about Entrepreneur Now and Microcasting?
Yeah, right. Just go to the URLs, entrepreneurnow.com. Microcasting.com will get you there as well to the microcasting side of things, and kenburke.com is where the book is. So I got too many .coms to talk about, but those are it.
Perfect. All right. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on the show, Ken. That was fantastic.
Oh, Scott, thanks so much. Thanks. Great questions as well. I really enjoyed it.
Excellent. Take care.